We're awaiting some new developments in the Amanda Hayes murder trial in North Carolina. Prosecutors say she and her husband Grant killed his ex-girlfriend back in 2011 after a long-running custody dispute, calling the crime, quote, brutal and barbaric. Grant Hayes is already convicted of murder, and he's serving a life sentence at this time. But now a jury will decide if Amanda also took part in the murder. She's charged with murdering 27-year-old Laura Ackerson. The defense says Amanda Hayes is innocent. Jonna Spilbor is a criminal defense attorney. Brian Silber is a former prosecutor, and they're a panel today. I like that, Spilbor and Silber. You guys could have your own firm. I can see the commercials and everything already. Brian, let me start with you. I just got some brand new news from the courtroom, which is they're back in court session today. A little bit of a gruesome detail, but this is what's going on. The judge has allowed the jury to see the photographs of Laura Ackerson's body. The body was dismembered, it was put into a cooler, it was dumped in a river. We know all the gruesome details. They're not really questioned. That's what happened to this woman. Right. As a prosecutor, Brian, why would you make that decision to show those photos to the jury?
Well, it's your strongest evidence. You know, you can't forget the strength of the visual in such cases as murders. You know, when you're trying to convince a panel of people that a person committed this horrible, gruesome crime, when they see the photographs and when they can see what it looked like, it becomes tangible. And that's the most important thing that any trial lawyer can do in the courtroom, is translate something that happened out in the field into a courtroom and make it real, make it something that you can see, make it something you can conceptualize.
Can that backfire when it's as gruesome of a crime as this is?
Oh, you bet. There was no question. We could have, or the defense could have stipulated that the victim was cut up and put into coolers. No juror had to see that exact evidence because it wasn't a question. So if I'm sitting on the jury panel and I'm forced to view, I can only imagine how gruesome the photos were. I could get upset with the prosecution for making me view evidence that's completely unnecessary and getting them from point A to point B.
And Brian, that is an issue with this case. It is evidence for Amanda because so far from what we've seen, and we're early in the case, nothing ties her directly to the body. Right. Grant, her husband, was on video buying the supplies that police say was used to dismember this body, but there's no evidence that puts her there. I mean, how do you get around that? What do you see in the case?
I completely disagree with that. You know, number one, she confessed to somebody. She said something to the effect of, I hurt her bad, she's dead. That's an admission that she participated in a murder. And number two, what are we supposed to believe, that as she drove all the way to Texas with these coolers full of dismembered body parts, that she didn't know what was in the back of the vehicle? Come on, I mean, who's going to believe that? It's a totally preposterous idea. Well, and based on that, her confession and the horror of this case, she's going to get convicted.
Well, the defense says, Jonna, is that this guy, Grant, was a master manipulator. And Amanda Hayes' daughter from a previous relationship testified to that effect, even though that was the prosecution's witness, that this guy was a manipulator, was using her mom's money and everything else. So what do you think about Brian's point, though, that really, I mean, how can she claim that she didn't know what's going on until they got to Texas and Grant said, oh, by the way, we're going to do this while we're down here?
Well, here's the thing, Jenna. So what if she did know? Knowing is not enough. And this is the example that I use. If I pick you up and I say, hey, let's go to the mall, and you detect a weird odor in my car, and I go, oh, by the way, you gotta help me move the body in the trunk so we can put our bags in there. If you know that information, but you don't touch anything, you're not guilty of anything. So even if she did know, that doesn't make her guilty, certainly not of murder, and probably not of accessory after the fact, unless she did more.
I'm a little worried about going to the mall with you now.
No, you never have to worry about that.
Point well taken, though. Point well taken. We're going to have to leave it there today. Great to have both of you on this case again. Thank you.
Thank you.